Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CFO Connect Summit. I'm very excited to be the moderator of our last summit session for 2025. This year's CFO Connect Summit is all about AI in finance, designed to help you stay ahead of the curve from panel discussions to practical use cases and demos of AI-powered finance tools, just the session you just had. According to the recently released Top CFO Tools report by CFO Connect, AI adoption is now quite mainstream. It's 56% of finance leaders already using AI. That was like 31% in 2024. But finance leaders have begun leveraging AI predominantly for like automating manual and administrative workflows such as meeting scheduling, call summarization, document management. But the opportunities now extend to reshaping core financial processes. So the session's goal is to bridge the gap between, let's say, superficial AI adoption and deep integration into our processes, such as accounting, forecasting, compliance, and of course, strategic decision making in finance team. So I'm Pauline Babel, I'm CFO at Spendesk, and I will be your moderator today for the session integrating AI tools across financial workflows. Being a CFO myself, facing the very challenges we are about to discuss, bringing AI tools into our workflows, it's not easy always to reconcile the hype around AI with our day-to-day activities. So I can't wait to hear more from our two speakers of today of this session. So joining me are Yubo, Head of Technical Accounting at OpenAI, and Peled, Head of Finance Data and Technology at Adyen. So I let you introduce you, Yubo.
Thank you, Pauline. My name is Yubo. I'm currently the head of technical accounting here at OpenAI. In my current role, I work on a lot of technical accounting policy memos, as all heads of technical accounting do. But in addition to that, because of the power of AI, I've been able to pivot in my career a little bit to sit on some of our largest negotiations and our largest deals. So some of the deals, not all of them, that you see in the news, I get the opportunity to sit at the desk before the contracts are signed and work with our amazing deals team. Prior to being the head of technical accounting here at OpenAI, I actually started my role in OpenAI in the controllership, where I did about half of our close processes. Back then, we were a much, much smaller shop and smaller business than we are today, the 1.5 years ago that I joined. So I used to close equity, operating leases. I used to do a lot of our international bookkeeping too. We have a lot of offices in Europe. I used to do the books for the UK and Ireland specifically because of my background in IFRS. And I also did a little bit of our intangible assets close. Prior to my experience at OpenAI, I used to work at Deloitte. I was part of our national office where I focused on technical accounting for revenue, equity, and financial presentation. And previous to that, I worked on a lot of our SaaS and software clients. I'm natively from the Bay Area, so that is something that I grew up with here.
Yes. My name is Ido. I work at a company called Adyen. I hope all of you know it, but for those who do not, Adyen is a payment company. It's basically a finance technology company providing payments, but now also financial services. So credit, bank accounts, all leveraging our banking license and all in a unified platform. A bit about myself. So I actually studied in accounting. I'm an accountant. And I think about 2 years working in audit, I understood that technology is going to really shift things up. And if that's going to happen, I really want to be in that intersection. So I slowly moved into more technical roles, first within the Big Four, EY, and now at Adyen. Currently at Adyen, I lead finance technology, which is basically comprised of two teams of very talented people. One is the finance system. So think about ERP, forecasting tool, regulatory reporting tool, and others, the integration, but also the business processes, The other team is more on the data analytics side, so working with our engineers, but also building the BI in Looker that controllers and other finance professionals use for the daily operations. I'm really excited about what AI brings to the table, and I'm excited for this conversation. Yeah. Thank you.
Amazing. I want to make sure that you can use the chat to get questions. We will answer at the end of the discussion. We will save time for Q&As, obviously. So don't hesitate, and you can also upvote your favorite question in the thread, so that we make sure we answer the best question. So now entering the core topic, I'd like to start with data and the technology challenges navigating this. So AI today promises a lot, and finance runs, imperfect data and legacy systems. So what's, in your opinion, the biggest blocker that you faced in real life about data quality or data privacy, fragmented systems and workflows, and how did you overcome it to earn stakeholders' trust? Maybe we can start with you.
Absolutely. I think the issue that we faced as it relates to data most frequently is how fragmented our data is. We are very nascent in our finance building. So we are very early on in the journey as compared to some of the much more mature big tech companies out there. But we worked very quickly to get our systems online. So as a result, we probably have more systems and more sources of truth that we would like. So, for example, we have maybe a couple of different sources of truth for our contract repository. So, when I'm thinking of it from the perspective of how can I incorporate AI for my revenue or my procurement processes, I do have to first identify, well, where are my contracts living in currently? We leverage a lot of our cloud services too. So sometimes our contracts are in a cloud service, other times it's in an enterprise software. So we do have a couple of different sources of data. So the first piece that I would advise for folks on the call here is to identify your sources of data. And if you can, aggregate them. I think there's a couple of different ways about thinking of aggregating data. I think the most complex, challenging way, but obviously the most scalable way, is to merge all of your data into one system, wherever you want that to be, for each of your significant processes. So maybe you have all of your revenue contracts in one location, procurement, et cetera. Absent of that, I think another scrappy method to think about is using a data aggregator software. There's a lot out there where you can pipeline different data into a data aggregator software. From our experience, we've done both. There are areas where, as we're thinking about completeness of accuracy and controls, we do have to have that one source of truth. So we'll spend more time, more patience working on that more scalable option. In the absence of that scalable option for lower risk items, or if you're a private company, potentially using that data aggregator is a really efficient and relatively fast solve.
Excellent. And what about you, Hido?
Yeah, so
Data aggregation.
I can add to that and share a bit on our experience. So of course, we also had this issue. So a few years back, we had the different finance systems, and each one of them hold a part of the truth. But of course, in order to build AI, but also to do analytics, you need to have everything in one place. So what we did is we built what we call finance data core, basically a finance data warehouse where we ingest all our financial data across all our systems. And once it's there, we run validation, reconciliation on it, and that will allows us to know we have data that is accurate, complete, and also will tag into our financial statements. So I think this part of building data foundation is key to build AI, because that's the context that AI will build on. And if data is incomplete, it doesn't matter what model it is, it will not be able to get that. So we build it with finance data core, and we keep, of course, iterating and strengthening that.
Okay. I think that's this is where I struggle the most today, because I took my position 3 months ago, and I think that data at one single place, connected and harmonized, I think this is actually one of our main challenging, but it's not the only one, because because AI is already disrupting the way we work, our organizational way of working, let's put it this way, and it's a bit like disruptive for our talents. So like what form or let's say team resistance show up in when you were introducing AI to your team? Was it about, the job changes, fears, like quality concerns and your like skills gap? And what successful experimentation with pilot AI initiative have you experienced yourself? Maybe we can start with you, Ido.
Sure. Yeah, I think adoption is a big challenge that's often not talked about because as a technical team, we can build amazing product or amazing AI, but if nobody uses it, that's a big problem. There are a few mental models to think about it. I like to think about adoption as a trust issue. Sometimes a technical team can build a solution and send it to the controllers, but if they don't really understand how an output is being created and they're not able to challenge or audit it, they will not use it. So what we try to do is to really work together with finance, building a solution together. It should only have a documentation in plain English that says what it does, and by that, get them feel a bit more in control over that. That's one of the challenges. I think the second challenge in terms of AI brings a lot of fears. Like, will AI replace me? Will AI take over what I do? And I think this is really important for leadership to communicate that. The way we see it, AI is a growth story. That's what we try to tell people. Like, if a controller is now 10x more productive and is able to provide 10x more business outcome, I don't want less controllers. I want to drive more value. And we try to focus on that, how we can make people more effective, because the job will change. And it will be more of an orchestrator, more of a different skill set will be needed. But we try to communicate how important that we get people trained, we get people to experiment, and we get people to use technology. In terms of what does successful experimentation look like, I can give one example. So about a year ago, Notebook LM released a feature of creating podcasts. And I remember at the time, we created the podcast over one of our IFRS principles, and that's created a really nice interactive chat of two people. And people were really mind blown by that because that was never created before. And what made it very successful is that it created a ripple effect because afterwards, more and more people start using this podcast feature. And that really allows people to consume information, even what people might call dull information, in a very interactive way. So successful experimentation is something that causes ripple effect and actually encourage others to join the train and experiment.
Ripple effect, amazing. I think I will use it to to bring adoption in my company. What about you, Yubo? About like what was the fears of your team, if any, at OpenAI or maybe before?
Well, people that join OpenAI, nobody has ever grown up with AI, right? I grew up with Microsoft Word and Excel. That's the tools that an accountant uses to do their jobs. So I think it was less about fear and more about lack of guidance when you join a company like ours. We hear the words AI, but what does it mean? I think the first step in terms of AI adoption is choosing a very strong leader in every single one of your verticals. So in finance, we have a great leader in Sarah, our CFO. She really believes in our product and she initiates the conversation with us in the form of hackathons. So every quarter or so, we all get together as an org. We demo a new pilot feature in our product, and we all work together for about an hour or two to see how can we apply that in our everyday life. It's a very expensive meeting, but it's very valuable. The way that I like to think about adopting AI is I always think about the value effort matrix. So high, low value, high, low effort. And that kind of creates my 4 boxes. The 2 things I like to focus on when I think about AI is what is low value and low effort. So that's my first box. What I mean by that is what is low value to my job, but maybe very repetitive, and what is low effort in adopting AI for that specific use case. So the example I have for there is that we wanted to build a control just to make sure that we weren't paying our invoices twice. So we could have hired a human being and sifted through invoices manually and looked at every single invoice that we paid to make sure that we didn't pay the same invoice twice. That would have taken recruiting efforts, that would have taken obvious cash outflow, right? And time invested to onboard that human. Instead, we try to leverage ChatGPT. So what we did is that we went into our procurement software. We started downloading the Excel spreadsheets just for all the invoices that we paid in the last month, 3 months, 6 months. We uploaded it to ChatGPT, and all we did was ask ChatGPT, can you look at this Excel? Do any of these invoices look the same based on description, invoice number, vendor? And that was a very quick and easy way for us to identify risky invoices that maybe we want to review one more time. The other box that I like to really attack in terms of AI adoption is low effort, high value. So something of low effort and high value to me is financial reporting. It's very, very high value, but it takes a lot of time to write financial statements. When you're a company like mine and you do very interesting new things, that means it runs through all the way to month end, all the way to financial reporting, and you have to create new financial statement footnotes. I used to write financial statement footnotes back at Deloitte. It was one of our advisory services. I know how long it takes. Now that we have AI, what I do is that I just ask ChatGPT to go onto the Edgar website, which is the public domain for all US filers. So all of our annual and quarterly financial statements that any public company files is housed in that public database. And it's essentially like a web search. I ask ChatGPT to go through Edgar, look for the target companies that I want to review, and find appropriate footnotes that I can leverage for my own financial statement. So I like to call it the set it and forget it pattern, where I ask ChatGPT to do the work. It takes about 8 to 9 minutes. It does take a little longer than the usual prompts because it's doing a lot of work on the back end. I go make my coffee and I come back and I have a new footnote. The last piece I'll touch on, and if anyone has questions, I'm happy to go in further, is what I would call the more sophisticated AI adoption. So high value and high effort. These are kind of projects that are going to take multiple months for you to clean your data, maybe create a linkage between that data and an LLM or an enterprise version of any sort of AI software. And that would be more automated and probably a lot more SOX ready, controls ready.
I think that it's like your last example is a perfect transition to my next question. Sorry, it's about like how much we can invest in AI and like given like strategic consideration. So when scaling AI in finance, which like constraints hits hardest for you? What is the technology cost? What is the computing requirements? What is the talents? And how did you? And I think I know the answer for you, Yubo, but between external vendors and in-house capability change, for like speed, quality, risk profile of delivery.
Absolutely. So during our hackathons, we actually create use cases for both the low value, low effort and the high value, low effort use cases. So that's simply done within a couple of hours because the tool is quite easy to use. I think the investment there is having someone who knows how to use the tool come in and do that session. For us, gratefully, we can do that in-house, but I appreciate that would be external costs for anyone else. I will say, again, that's a very expensive meeting if you're asking your entire org to show up. But from my personal experience, it's been so fruitful. The stat that we like to call out is that our company has about 22% of the headcount as comparable company of our size. And we only look at size and not complexity. So I'm sure if you use complexity, it'll be a much lower number. And it's because of our nascent ability to adopt AI. That being said, if you do want to do a high value, high effort project, again, from our experience, we do bring in external consultants, not from the sphere of using AI. We actually use our consultants more to clean up our data. I think data is your source of truth. That's going to be so important. We've also invested in-house to bring in data engineers to help us think through what is the best way to get to maybe one ERP system, one source of truth. That is where we spend most of our time. But appreciating if I was working at any other company, I would have to spend that additional cost to find someone who uses AI and can kind of teach my organization how to best leverage AI.
I really love a Yubo example, and it really connects well to what we try to do at Adyen. So I personally believe that the best use case of AI will come with people who really understand the content very well. So if you will provide them with the training, with the tools, they will find out way better use cases that if it will be pushed top down from let's say technical team. And that also comes to one of the challenge. Of course, all the challenges you listed are a true challenge, but a big challenge that I see is time and focus. What I find is very difficult is to take finance people and ask them, hey, could you do some AI or innovation in between submission and in between reporting obligation? That's very, very hard. So I think one of the challenges we want to solve is how do we allocate time? How do we allocate the expectation to create that capacity? So I think hackathon is one of them. One of the stuff that we do at Adyen is we do exchange. So we take people who are tax controllers or financial controller, FP&A, who has some idea, and then we take an exchange into the technical team. And in the technical team, we provide them with two things. One, with support system. So a group of engineers, data analysts, that can help them think about their solution more scalably and launch it. And the second thing, just really time and focus to work on that. The other stuff we try to do is really set a leadership expectation that AI is here and we need to spend some time, experiment and adopt and work together with the person to find when is it feasible to actually really focus and not just, to say we're doing it, but really have time and the mental capacity to think and experiment. And then we'll come up with solution, things like Yubo mentioned about financial statement and another really cool, productive use cases.
Yes. So talking about use cases, like this is like I think the most exciting question for me. Like, what concrete AI use case delivered like measurable impact to you? You've already mentioned like the footnotes. I find it amazing. But what about like AP automation, reconciliation, maybe like cash planning, cash forecasting, or maybe even like fraud monitoring, or even like generating an AI assistant to do like let's say to boost productivity of the team. And what KPI have you used to measure this improvement? Maybe Ido, you can start.
Yeah, so I can give some examples. On, let's say, payment matching is one of the challenge we have, of course, and we have currently a lot of operational complexity around that. And one of the stuff we are piloting with is using our own GenAI platform to help with the exception that doesn't get automatically reconciled and see whether if we list all the structured and unstructured data, we can get better success rates. The way we'll probably measure it is by the time it currently takes us and the number of employees currently takes us and the efficiency gains of the stuff that gets automatically reconciled. We use on API, we use solutions from our SaaS providers. We see them as strategic partners. So we want to ensure that we use them to the best of its ability. So we always experiment with pilots within the different applications. Some other use cases we use a lot in the reporting team. We use Gemini to draft for accounting papers for financial products, for example, which we then, of course, challenge and review them. We do it for an analysis on reporting. We have some prompt libraries which we use to run checks. And an example that I really enjoy is I use Canvas or Figma Make to prototype. We have a lot of the content of ideas of what software we want to, what interactive checklist we want to build. But now we can actually experiment and play with it and communicate better to our engineers.
And I think that's like the exchange between like like FP&A and technical teams. I find it quite valuable. I think I will definitely take the idea.
Maybe one more example. So we as finance oftentimes support the business in certain stuff. If we take, for example, the forecasting cycle. So oftentimes we will spend a long time working with sales and account managers and answer the questions. And now what we build is a knowledge hub where we put all the documentation, videos, any other source of information, and we allow them to just ask a question for the tool and get immediate answer. So that not only free up time from us, but it also allows them to get instant answer, no matter where they are in the world.
Yeah, before handing over to you, Yubo, I think I try to be an agent myself with a bit of support of the technical and the RevOps team regarding like discount guideline, because I was so sick of getting single approval for exceptions when it comes to winning some deals. And I plugged like guidelines and some financial model into an agent, and it can provide, like automatic answer 24 hours, 7 days. And it's not taking any time from my FP&A team. I found it quite powerful. I think I'm on the right track,
It
So
definitely helps.
what about you, Yubo? Like, do you have other example? Of course.
I can speak maybe a little bit to a use case that we've been investing a little bit more time in. We internally call this our contract reader AI bot. So what it is that we amalgamated all of our contracts into one source of truth. So that has already been done. And after that, we took that data repository and we connected it to our own enterprise version of ChatGPT. The purpose of that was to have a steady stream of data flowing in. So if you imagine, as we sign a revenue contract or as we sign a vendor contract, these contracts will flow through our GPT or our enterprise model. That was the goal, that this would be instantaneously. So this is a bit different than if you just use ChatGPT, the chat box, right? Because that would require you to upload contracts one by one and ask ChatGPT to do the same thing over and over again. Of course, it'd be quicker than if you had a team of, let's say, 40 people that go and review the contracts manually. But we still didn't really love having the idea of one person and their only job is talking to a chatbot every single day. So we decided to automate it just by connecting our ChatGPT Enterprise to our contract software. So after we did that, now every time a contract is signed, just going to use revenue as an example, although we have also deployed it on a procurement side, we write out in plain English very specific rules to ChatGPT. And we do this, I like to think of it in sequence. So the very first step we tell ChatGPT to do is that I only want you to pick up the revenue contracts because we have a giant contract repository that has a bunch of different types of contracts. So we only want you to tag or to pick up the ones that are tagged revenue. Now, with that revenue contract, I want you to pull out specific key terms from the revenue contract: start date, end date, signature date, dollar amount, and what products we're selling. So at this stage, our product allows you to upload a couple of PDFs or Excel or Word docs to help the product learn better. So in this example, we uploaded just a listing of everything we sell. So all of our different ChatGPT enterprise SKUs, all the different APIs that we sell. So now ChatGPT kind of has the knowledge to know these are the type of products and these are the type of pricing dollar amounts that I should be picking up. After we've extracted all the key terms, the very next step is, all right, apply the ASC 606 identical to IFRS 15 revenue recognition model, right? Go through step 1 all the way through step 5. At this point, I'm uploading data like my standard selling price, my SSP, so that ChatGPT knows how to do the contract allocation for contract prices. And then the output goes into my ERP. So it literally will spit out journal entries that are disaggregated, calculated from the revenue waterfall that it creates. This is a project that did take, 3 months, but we were willing to invest in it because we can deploy it on the revenue side and also on our expense side. So this is really valuable for us. And from a controls perspective, what we do is that we do a detective control. So we do sample at each of the 3 stages that I described. At the first stage, we'll do a completeness accuracy check to see if our AI is picking up any sort of non-revenue contracts. In the second stage, we'll do an accuracy completeness check on, are you truly picking out the right key terms? And then at the very last stage, we'll do some manual calculation. So we are auditing the AI manually, but that is a fraction of the work than hiring and spinning up an entire team to do the process themselves.
Yeah, and the risk of errors, I think it's divided by like 100, like because like you are supervising AI rather than like having a human being doing the heavy lift. It's powerful. Um, So I think I have a last question for the new CFOs who are like listening to us. So what would be like in like tomorrow's tactic, the first AI workflow a CFO should implement starting a new job? Maybe you want to start?
If you're a brand new CFO and you've never used AI before, I think my best advice to you is just go in and try it out. In ChatGPT and a lot of the other AI systems, there's a lot of connectors now. So you could connect just the native chat box to your Gmail, your G Drive, all the different Outlook, all the different messaging tools, and all the different internal knowledge base that you already have. It's literally a click of a button, and it is so easy. And you can start, if you are a new CFO in a new organization, you can start just asking the chatbot to explain to you historical knowledge based on that internal knowledge. So you can ask it, well, what was my revenue in 2022? How did it compare to 2021? If you have any sort of slide decks, flash decks, the AI is going to go and read all of that and help summarize that for you. So that's a way that I kind of onboarded into all the different internal roles I've had at OpenAI, because the knowledge base is there. It really upscaled my ability to speak to specific items, and it helped me identify risks of where I want to focus more of my time on. It really helped the risk assessment and the execution of my current and past roles.
Wow.
So maybe adding to that, I will just add, if a new CFO, I would invest time also in the foundation. In the foundation, I can look at the three things. One is the culture. Like, do we have people who are trained, who see change as opportunity? Do we look at things as sunk cost? The second thing, I will look at data. We talked about it. Data is centralized, governed, accessible. And the third thing is the processes. Do we have a knowledge hub? Do we have a process written? The process written actually what's been done or is different, because these things never going to change. Like, maybe tomorrow's going to be a new agent that does really great stuff, but we know it's going to need to have the right people, the right contacts, and the right processes. So I will start mapping up the architecture, the P2P process, of the C processes, ensure that we feel comfortable that we have the right foundation to scale and adopt whatever agents coming up.
Okay, and I, as a new CFO, like for 3 months, not a real new CFO, but a new one at Spendesk, I think I will definitely take your insights in my playbook for the last phase of my onboarding. Thank you. I think that we have we have a bit of time for Q&A now, so I will just go to the Q&A, and I think we have like question from Ron Wang. We have 15 votes, so I will start by this one. Do you think another human being like checking ChatGPT did, because it does make mistakes? So if the volume of the data is huge, obviously don't you have to spend a lot of time checking? I think it resonates a bit with what you just said, Yubo.
Yeah, absolutely. As a finance professional, the most important thing to me is accuracy and completeness. Speaking from someone who works at OpenAI, that means that I expect the highest quality out of my own product. I know this sounds very easy for me to say, but we work very closely with our research team. I think there's another question here on connectors, right? What's available in different AI models. Speaking from my personal experience, our finance team works directly with our researchers. If I need a connector to a specific database, to a specific ERP, my researchers are going to build that for me, which means that we're going to launch that as a product, because we're not going to just do that internally. But because it's so important to make sure that our product gets things accurate and complete, we have a lot of teams working on that. But to your point, it's never going to be 100% reliable, just like no human's work is ever going to be 100% reliable. The way that I think about ChatGPT and AI in general is that it really accelerates my ability to prepare and draft, whether it's workbooks, memos, policies, or doing the first review of contracts. It does a really great job there. So speaking from personal experience, when I started a year and a half ago, we had about a couple thousand revenue contracts life to date. We now have that number every single month. So we have really hyperscaled in that sense, and we still choose to leverage AI because it does do the first pass through. So if I put my auditor hat on, that's the difference between reviewing every single contract myself as management or the preparer, or truly just taking an audit approach, risk-based. Revenue might be significant risk for me. I'm going to go in, I'm going to create an appropriate sample size. I'm going to look for deficiencies. I'm going to look for errors. And if there are too many errors or deficiencies, that means I have to go sample more, or I have to go to the source of what is causing the deficiency in my software. And using plain English, just go and update the prompt, go and fix it. This happens here and there, right? When we start potentially launching new products, or when we have different fee structures or whatnot as it relates to revenue, there might be a miss there in terms of we might have launched that new use case, but we haven't updated our software for it. But the way I think about it is that this is a risk that you have with every single software. Even if you're on a traditional ERP, if you launch a product and miss updating your SKU price, you're going to get the same errors. So these are the things that we actively pick up in our human review, and we go back into our AI software and we update for it.
Yeah. Do you feel the same, Ido?
Yeah,
Checking.
100%. 100%. There's a concept of evaluations, and it's something that we write whenever we adopt a new solution. Like, how do we evaluate the results of it? It could be like nuance. Is it what we expect to be? Is it accurate, of course, but it can also be more accurate, like accuracy. So we will definitely check, and we'll do extensive piloting before we adopt something. But I think it touch base, like the change that's happening is basically moving from a preparer into a viewer, from somebody who just open a control to check what's happened to somebody who's more of an exception manager that get notified when things go wrong. So just saving time, the preparation is really important, but definitely evaluations and being in control is not going to go away.
Yeah, and I feel like even for me, like in not at Spendesk, but in my experience before, I pushed automation for like AP processes quite further, because this is like very repetitive and like rules based work, And I think that we went super far. So having just a 1.5 FTE. Supervising like a 3 million euros revenue business with a lot of suppliers as well. And I think that I would not have been able to downsize the team down to 1.5, including an apprentice part-time, like without any of those tools. I can imagine the progress I could have made with like extensive AI agent on that. Super insightful. I think we've got other questions about security. Like how secure is it to upload information like spreadsheets with bank information? Maybe we can extend, to payroll to perform checks. Like taking the example, Yubo, you had on checking the duplicate invoices before being paid. I think it's a fair question. Security, confidentiality. How do
Absolutely.
you deal with that?
Security and data policies are very important to us. We have dedicated teams, massive teams that work on this. We never train on our customer data. All of our enterprise-facing models are completely safe. They meet all of the EU data residency rules, and we have a zero data retention policy. I think this is exemplified by the fact that 5 million customers, enterprise customers, so real businesses, sign up with us. Especially in the EU zone, we have a lot of different banks that are highly regulated, that are our preferred partners and our preferred customers, because we are a well-trusted brand. And just speaking from my personal experience, we run safety checks on our models from the very beginning up until launch and until we end of life our models. So we are continuously monitoring safety, and we always want to be a better version of ourselves.
And Ido, how do you manage security and data privacy?
Yeah, so of course we will audit and monitor the policy of the tools we use to see whether they train the data over what we upload. And only once we get approval from our security and perform extensive assessment, we will do that. We also have our own Gen AI platform that hosts on Adyen's servers, and we will use that for more confidential and private information. But it's just really important to partner with your security and take them along and ensure that we perform proper assessments there.
Yeah, I do agree. Like, and if to anyone listening to us, I think that the thing you've mentioned both is like enterprise like tools. It's super important not to use the, let's say, the public interface that you might use for, you know, birthday poem or like cookie recipe to upload your like super sensitive company data. So if you want to move to AI and invest, you must invest in something which is robust, hand in hand with your, like, sounds stupid, but like, it's saying the obvious, you know. But I think it's super important to double down on that because we are like finance professionals, and we don't want the, like, how you say, Yubo, like trainings to get done with our data. So we must really be even more the gatekeeper for that, and taking conscious, being like, you know, raising awareness around that. I think it's super important. So about that, we have a question on the finance tech stack overall. So maybe for you, Ido, what are your considerations in terms of finance SaaS solution and apps to bring more AI into our workflows?
Yeah, so it's a very nice question. There are a few. One of them is, like I mentioned, our providers, our vendors, we look at them as strategic partners. And then so we really want to understand the vision. How do they look about AI? What is their plans? Because we want to subscribe for their innovation. So we want to ensure it aligns with our principles and where we want to be. What's also important for us is the interoperability between different systems. So we want to know that we can take data from the system to launch it into our finance data core, which is what they talk about, the single source of truth. So we don't want to be locked in at the same time. Of course, security and privacy, all of that is top of mind. I take it as a given, but that's also one of them. But yeah, I think that sums it. We look at different apps as ecosystem, as architecture. So we don't look just as one thing as a standalone, but we want to see how all of them going to talk together and going to work together. So when, for example, we launch an AI, it can retrieve data across multiple applications or perform actions in multiple applications.
Okay. I have I think the next question might go to you, Yubo. Like OpenAI and Cloud have standardized on MCP protocol. I heard about MCP protocol like 2 days ago. I had a finance forum in London as the key connection standards for systems. Would you be able to explain maybe a bit more about this MCP protocol? Are you
I think
familiar
that
with
might be a
that?
little technical for me as a finance
Yeah.
professional, unfortunately, but I think I can answer the question potentially of how we are thinking about connectors and expanding those. I think for us, connectors are a very useful tool. To my original point of potentially having sources of truth in different locations, using something like a connector, which connects your ChatGPT enterprise chat box to these different sources of truth really helps accelerate your ability to merge your sources of truth. This is, again, a scrappy solution, and depending on where you are in your finance and technology sophistication, this might not be the path that you want to choose. But it is something that, in my earlier example of what I think a brand new CFO should try, it's useful. It's handy. It's handy to not have to go and dig through all your emails. It's handy not to have to go through all your policy memos and just ask ChatGPT or ask your AI model of what can I do with this? What did flexes look like in X, Y, and Z? So we are constantly thinking about how we can enhance those connectors, both on an intra perspective. So that would be within a company. So these are all the different ERP systems that a company can use. But also on an inter perspective, which is on the global web. How can we ping the web better and more efficiently to kind of merge those two information together?
Okay, and I think that, like, I think it raised a question with 4 votes from Audrey. Like, how should we consider GPT in a pro environment? So, is there a redundancy? Do you think it will, like, that will be an issue sometimes with ERP or BI tools?
I think if you already have a system in place and it's working for you, then the question you have to ask yourself is, can it work better with AI? So it's a simple benefit cost analysis. If you have a system that's working but it's powered by 1,000 people. But if you take maybe 6 or 8 months to implement something new in that workflow to save on the cost or to repurpose those 1,000 people to do something way more productive with their work, then it might be worth the cost. I really challenge folks on this call to think about where they can leverage AI. And again, like I described, the way to think about it is start small. Because when you start small, you get comfortable using the tool. And once you get comfortable using the tool and you use it here and there, you're going to find really creative use cases of what you can automate in your own life. I'm not a proponent of start big and do the biggest AI infrastructure replication that you can do and then go back down. I think the bottoms up approach is a lot more comfortable for most people who potentially have never used the tool before. And one of the favorite parts of my job is hearing from customers or potential customers, or just anyone using AI, not just our own platform. Because I actually get very inspired by the rest of the finance orgs around the world who are adopting AI and using it in use cases that I would have never imagined myself.
Yeah, I'll also add that I think AI should solve the end user problem. And of course, we can use different tools, but it's always better to map what are you trying to solve and then see maybe, like you said, so you have something that already solves it in a good way. And then you can walk backwards to the technology. But if we do it the other way, we might end up buying or using stuff that we don't actually provide a lot of value or a lot of added value over what we have.
Agree. And I think, giving the time, I think I will take the last question from Emily about integrating AI and the impact on the financial audit. So, would you say it's making the audit more complex, and how do you get the auditors comfortable with AI output? Maybe to you, Yubo, because that might be maybe in your sweet spot.
Absolutely. So when I think about getting auditors comfortable, I think about controls. And the way that I think about controls is from preventative and also a detective perspective. So AI is still growing very quickly. It's getting better every day, which means the core of it, all of our model weights, all of the magic that goes into making AI is rapidly changing. I don't think I can stand here and tell the folks on this call that we have a SOC 2 report or, a SOC 1 report that will test every form of AI. We do have a SOC 2 report that does test certain parts of our system. So if you are not comfortable on the preventative side, what I really encourage people to think about on this call is the detective side. It gave an example of what we do in terms of detective controls to get comfortable over our own AI use cases. What I'll add on to that is that was a very big example, but even in your siloed, smaller, your low value, low effort, or high value, low effort examples, you can use AI as a preparation tool. What's going to happen is that you're going to maybe have fewer preparers instead of maybe having a team of 500 people doing something. Maybe you have a much smaller team than that because they can leverage AI to work faster. So that's kind of the metric that we think about when we think about success in adopting AI. How many hours are we saving? In addition to that, you're still going to have your reviewers. And what I like about adopting AI is that I feel like it accelerates the path for a preparer to become a reviewer. Because if you're a preparer leveraging AI, that means you're not spending your day doing the mundane things that I think most of us grew up with, whether we came from a firm or came from industry, which was the ticking and tying, the math checks, struggling over how to use a pivot table in Excel. If you're using AI for that, then you're actually spending more time on what I like to call the higher level thinking, strategic thinking. What are my risks? Now that AI prepared this for me, how can I review this? How can I make sure this is accurate and complete? And if you're spending most of your time doing that, then in my mind, you've already elevated yourself to a reviewer, to a manager, to a VP.
Thank you. And I think this is a time now to close this last session of CFO Connect Summit. Thank you both. I learned a lot myself. I hope that all our attendees learned a lot as well. So thank you to the 3,000 people who registered to the conference during these 3 days. We hope they've taken away insights from the sessions they can apply at work. And last but not least, Spendesk will have its own conference. So you should get a link in the chat, if not already done and shared by Luke. And all sessions are recorded. So you will receive an email at the end of the conference with the full list of replays. So again, thanks attendees for the attendance, and big thanks. Sorry, it's 6 in Paris. To you, Yubo, and to you, Ido. That was a pleasure to moderate today with you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, all.
Thank you.